Oh hey, hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a new video of StarCraft II Heart of the Storm. Today we're gonna take a look at a game that I have played, I believe it's 2 days ago now, and it is a Zerg vs Protoss on the map Derelict Watcher Tournament Edition. Now, this is a little bit of a different game. I know I like to upload a lot of games where, you know, it's like macro and it's like a little bit of cheese every now and then. But in this game, I am forced by my opponent to basically just go all in, or, you know, go into the middle part of the game with a pretty significant deficit. So, in this particular game, I do decide to go for a pretty big all in. Now, as you might have already noticed, we are watching this game completely through my vision of view. So we are going to discuss the things that I was thinking about while playing this game. I'm going to try and explain to you what was going on inside my head, and hopefully learn or like teach you a thing or two, you know, about like decision making and whatnot. So, a lot of people always wonder why there's a whole lot of spamming going on in the early part of the game. You can see the selection in the bottom left or like the bottom middle of the screen. You can see it going all crazy and like readjusting my overlords all the time, and I'm just spamming between all kinds of things. And honestly, that is all boredom. Like, there's a few good reasons why you would want to do this. For example, like muscle memory, warming up hands, just making sure that your APM is up there so it gets used to it in the later part of the games. But most of the time, it's very unnecessary. I'm just gonna be honest right there. Most of the APM spamming that you do see is mostly gonna be just sheer boredom, honestly. Now, there's, you know, some players do it just because of muscle memory, just because of warming up their hands, but I'm pretty sure most of the players just do it because they're bored. Now, you can see me opening up completely standard right there, a spawning pool first, and I'm gonna follow it up with a hatchery. Now, if we actually cheat a little bit with the camera, and we put it on the everyone cam, turns out my opponent is actually gonna go for a gateway push right here. He actually built a pylon on the other side of the map, he built a gateway right next to it, and he's chrono boosting out a zealot, while he's actually gonna follow this up with a forge on the low ground. There we go, the forge. So, let's go back to my vision really quickly. I am completely unaware of that. Like, I sent my overlords in a little bit of a different path than you would, like, normally take it, but I'm honestly not really too worried about it. Gonna start my own queen up, gonna start a set of Zerglings. This completely standard play. Now, what you oftentimes see nowadays, oh, and there's actually me noticing that there's a zealot like nibbling away at my hatchery, but what you notice a lot of times nowadays is that your opponent is gonna go for a double proxy gateway. This is the reason why you instantly see me panic, because I'm like, oh my god, I need to throw up a spawning pool. If he's gonna go for, or a spine crawler rather, if he's gonna go for my hatchery, that's okay if he has double gateway proxy, but I realize, okay, that second zealot was really late. I don't think he's actually doing anything cheesy whatsoever, so I'm deciding to just make sure that I buy as much time as I can right now with my hatchery on the low ground. I am of course gonna cancel that if I manage to kill off these zealots. I will obviously be able to save it, but nope, looks like that's not gonna happen. Even though I'm producing more Zerglings, it seems like that is a really hard treat. So I'm actually deciding to just cancel the hatchery, put drones in gas, and have a spine crawler to defend my natural, or my main base rather. And at this point, it is a little bit tricky. I know there is actually a nexus up for my opponent, and I'm like, oh my god, why do no Protoss players ever do this? This seems incredibly strong, especially because what my opponent is gonna do right here, just look what he's doing. I'm actually walking my Zerglings front, and I'm like, oh my god, he's actually hold positioning zealots on the ramp right there, so I cannot leave my base, unless somehow, some way I get my spine crawler all the way in range to kill that. And that's obviously not going to help at all, because my opponent's already having his natural up. And even though he sacrificed a little bit of tech and a little bit of you know, cybernetics core timing pretty much to get this thing up, it is still in production at the 5-minute mark, and I don't even have a natural up right now. So I decide, okay, I need to go for something cheeky. I obviously don't want my opponent to know that, but I'm going for a really quick lair. I'm going to have to basically put all my eggs in one basket, because I cannot allow my opponent to get away with this for free. There's actually 4 zealots in the natural right now. I don't even have the Zerglings to deal with that, so if I want to get a natural up, it will probably take me another minute or so, because I need to get the creep and the spine crawler on the low ground. So I am deciding right now, okay, let's just do this. Let's just try this thing out. I'm gonna go for a Nidus network with a Roach Warren. I'm gonna get my Roach Warren shortly. I'm having max saturation right there on minerals, actually needing 1 or 2 more right there. And I'm also having double gas geysers going on. So what I'm gonna do is try the most cheekiest of cheekiest play. Yeah, I'm actually asking my opponent, like, why don't more people do this? Because this is a ridiculously strong build. Why don't more Protoss players do this? If it's played a little bit more properly than my opponent does in this game, it will honestly be a very strong opener. Now, of course, my opponent did invest into this, and like I mentioned, it did delay his cybernetics core. So if my opponent wanted to go for something like a cybernetics core timing, maybe with the warp gates, or he hasn't been chrono boosting the warp gate, I might be able to catch my opponent off guard without him actually finishing up the warp gate upgrade, and that would obviously just be a straight up win for me, because if he can't make units or he can't warp in units, it's going to be a really easy pickup. Now, I do have my Nidus network in production. I'm actually sending a drone to the low ground, actually showing that to him, so he's like, okay, my opponent is most likely expanding, and in reality, I'm really not doing none of that whatsoever. Now, I did show him the drone, so he's probably expecting me to expand right now. While in reality, I am getting my Nidus network up. I'm producing more and more roads, actually 12 in production right now, and I'm going to put those into the Nidus canal as soon as I can. Now, sadly for me, he actually has a vision in the main base, so I can't throw it up right there. I'm trying to decide which of my 2 overloads I should use. Now, I do decide to go with... There we go, first Nidus network going up, and if you take a really quick look at my opponent's vision, he actually doesn't know anything about this. He has the zealots on the low ground, he has a gateway still up there, and he still just happily chrono boosting his stuff at home. When in reality, look what's gonna happen. I'm actually going to use my Nidus network to just plot to start making the units inside of his natural and inside of his main base. So I'm gonna try and attacking on 2 sides. Now obviously there's gonna be a mothership cannon really soon on the natural, at least, or on the nexus rather, at least I would expect so. So I'm a little bit hesitant right now. If I manage to pick up something, that would obviously be great, but I'm gonna use the reinforcements that are actually rallied into my Nidus network. I'm gonna use those to run into the main base. I'm also bringing my queens. My queens do have a transfuse available, so if he would have gone for anything like a Stargate, that would have been quite an easy pickup. I'm just gonna make sure that I don't lose units for nothing. Going to target fire the gateway in the main, or the pylon in the main base rather, to make sure that I actually unpower a whole lot of his gateways, and I'm gonna use a few roaches to target fire down the drones or the probes in the main. But obviously, killing one base is not enough. I need to kill my opponent right here, or expand this behind this myself, which is a really risky move for me right now. So I'm just gonna try and get as many units as I can, just waiting for the mothership cannon to run out, and I'm doing quite a decent job right here microing, making sure that I micro my queens at least decently, so I don't lose them for absolutely free. Going to use the transfuse on my queens. Queens actually beat stalkers one-on-one, which is quite a big deal as well, and it does look like I will just have a sheer amount of stuff that he can't deal with. I managed to deny his economy in the main base for the longest time, and he just did not do enough damage to me, to my units, and his micro was a little bit off, which just allows me to get so many units into his main base. Now, whatever I can kill right now is a big deal. He's obviously not going to be close to supply blocks, so target firing a pylon right now is not really going to be worth it, but I'm just going to try and rally more and more units. I know there's no mothership core anymore, or at least there's no energy on it. I know there's not going to be a cannon in the low ground anymore, and he might still be warping in a little bit, but he doesn't have the income. He only has a few probes left in the natural, and even though my opponent went for the cheekiest of cheekiest things, I will still be able to quite easily clean up all the units that he has. Going to target fire the lost probes, going to make sure that my opponent has zero income going on, actually creeping all over his main base, making sure that all is good, losing the rust transfuse right there as well, cancelling my natural, but getting a spine crawler for defense purposes in my own main base, and I'm just making sure that my opponent will not be able to come back from this. If you take a look at the income right now, I'm actually quite significantly ahead, and this is his last ditch effort, and he decides to leave the game. I want to thank you guys all for watching. Hopefully this showed you a little bit of a response that you could try if your opponent is gonna go for something like a gateway push, or maybe even a cannon rush or something similar like that, because this is oftentimes one of the strongest follow-ups that you can go for. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a good one. Bye! Please don't.